Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over some Fortnite techniques that you probably should stop trying to use if you play on controller, and especially if you play controller on console. Even though playing on controller does have some benefits when it comes to certain aspects of aiming, almost everybody would agree that it's clearly the worst input for building and editing. Now, due to the fact that the majority of the most popular Fortnite pros play mouse and keyboard, I can totally understand why a lot of controller players try to copy some of the advanced techniques that they use. However, there are just a lot of higher level mechanical plays that can be done fairly easily on mouse and keyboard, but on controller, they're borderline impossible to execute consistently, and those are the ones that we're going to focus on in this video. Now, obviously, I'm by no means saying that the techniques in here are impossible to do consistently on controller, but unless you're incredibly cracked mechanically, I'd strongly recommend staying away from them and opting for more simple techniques instead. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first technique that I would recommend avoiding for controller players are edit, reset, edit plays. If you watch top level Fortnite pros a lot, this is probably something that you see done fairly frequently, and it's mainly used as an offensive trick on enemies inside a 1x1 once you take their front wall. On the surface, it actually seems pretty simple. All you have to do is make an initial simple wall edit like a middle window or top row edit, then immediately reset it, and then ideally you'd make a different edit the second time and go for a shot. And the reason this works is actually fairly straightforward. When you make that initial edit, the enemy is obviously going to start moving their crosshair in that direction to try to get a shot off. So then when you reset it and make a new edit, they have almost no chance to readjust their aim in time to deal any type of damage to you, and they're basically totally exposed, so you should be able to hit your shot fairly easily. Now, all of that sounds great, and I agree that it is very powerful if done correctly. However, actually doing it correctly is a lot easier said than done, especially on controller. Like I mentioned in the intro, editing is probably the single most difficult mechanical skill on Fortnite controller, and what's especially hard to do is resetting edits. On mouse and keyboard with scroll wheel, players can pretty much instantly reset any edit they make, and it's the easiest thing in the world to do. But on controller, it takes 3 separate button clicks to reset an edit, so I'd guess that it takes about 3 times as long as it would on mouse and keyboard. I actually individually counted the button clicks required to do even the most simple edit, reset, edit play, and the total number was a whopping 9 button clicks. Unless you're FaZe Sway or maybe the Raider 464 of controller Fortnite, it's almost impossible to do 9 button clicks fast enough to make this technique effective, unless of course the player inside the box is just really bad at the game. By the time you've completed that second edit and you're now ready to fire, any half-decent player is going to realize that you're making an offensive play, and they're going to place a ramp in front of themselves to block your shot. So I'll use this technique every once in a blue moon just to kind of show off when I know the player I'm fighting against isn't that great, but I would never use it in any kind of serious situation. It's just too mechanically demanding in my opinion, and most times it isn't even more effective than just making a regular wall edit, so why not stick to that? The next technique that you should probably stop trying to do or learn in Fortnite are triple edits. Now, there are obviously different kinds of triple edits that players use, but the most common one is doing the ever so popular floor cone double edit and then placing a wall in front of it and editing through that. This obviously gives you an extra level of protection in case an enemy has an angle on you from the front, but again, I don't want to focus too much on that specifically because there's like an unlimited amount of triple edits that you could possibly do. I see this weird little theme in the console/controller community specifically, where being able to triple edit is like this crazy thing that people aspire to being able to do. And to be fair, I totally get it. When you see a clip like this from one of the most popular Fortnite pros, it really does make you want to hop into creative, grind out triple edits like crazy, and then try to make plays like that in real games. But again, as I emphasized in the last section, that just isn't possible for 99.9999999% of controller Fortnite players. Buttons and thumbsticks are just nothing compared to mouse and keyboard clicks when it comes to something like that. So instead of focusing on trying to learn triple edits even though you'll never use them in real games, instead focus on getting your double edits down as much as possible, because if you get it good enough, you'll actually use those fairly frequently. The next type of technique that I can't recommend staying away from enough on console/controller are super advanced high ground retakes. Much like with the clip I just showed you from Clicks, I can totally understand how someone could watch some insanely cracked player do some crazy retake in a montage with super flashy editing, and then kind of think to themselves, wow, that's so cool and so effective, I need to learn how to do that. But there's a reason why the vast majority of those clips are in creative mode, and in all honesty, a decent amount of them are probably against clip bots who are intentionally trying to die to make the clip look as good as possible. And the reason is basically this: the super advanced high ground retakes are almost never used in real game situations, and I can tell you this from personal experience. I've gone out of my way to learn some of these crazy retakes because I saw an awesome clip of it, but then whenever I was in a serious real game situation, I'd always opt for the more simple retakes instead. They use less mats, they're more consistent, and they're harder to mess up. That's why anytime I upload a high ground retakes video onto my channel, I always make sure that the majority of them are simple enough to where even just an average console player would be able to learn them fairly easily. Now, I guess you could make the argument that learning advanced retakes helps your mechanics in general, so that's fine and all, but if you're learning them with the intention of actually using them in real games, I can all but guarantee you that it isn't going to be worth it. And the final technique I discourage controller players from trying to learn or just use at all is the Mongrel Classic. I've mentioned this one or two times before and a decent amount of people disagreed with me, so let me try to defend myself. Out of all the techniques in this video, I'll admit that the Mongrel Classic is probably the most viable. Even though it requires roughly the same amount of fast building and editing as edit, reset, edit plays, it's definitely much more effective overall because you block your enemy from building to protect themselves with the ramp you place inside their box. But it's still a really difficult technique to do fast enough without messing up, so I'd really recommend opting for the much simpler alternative, which is just placing a cone inside your enemy's box instead. As soon as you take the enemy's front wall, all you have to do is simply edit it and place a cone inside their box. From there, you now absolutely control that fight because they can't build to protect themselves, and there are basically an unlimited amount of follow-up plays that you can make at that point to end up winning the fight. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. I want to know a technique that you personally struggle with if you play on controller. It can be a building technique, editing technique, or anything else. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.